Okay, should we just wait one more minute? It's just nearly 8 o'clock. Meanwhile, I want to say how happy I am and how privileged we are to have Chana Yael with us from Mexico City. People are still joining just in a few minutes.
Okay, the privilege is mine and the pleasure as well.
Thank you. Jane, maybe turn your volume up.
I'm sorry?
No, somebody just wrote to me that they can't hear us. Can everybody hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, great. At the end, we will have questions and answers, and then you can unmute yourself. But for the moment, I'm muting everybody. And at the end, we will have time. Okay, so we are very privileged today to have Chana Yael, a coach, an EFT specialist, who is going to teach us how to manage stress in these times. Chana Yael, over to you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. It's a real pleasure to be here. And I hope that this talk will be inspiring. I think stress is a very today topic, and mainly in the situation we're living today with this pandemic. So I hope that those tools will be useful to all of you. So I would like to start with a relaxing meditation that will help us transition from our activities that we may have been involved until now to the present moment in space and time. So I hope nobody's driving. You're driving, so don't get involved in this exercise. And I would invite you to be sitting comfortably in a chair or in a comfortable place. If you could, it's more relaxing if you can close your eyes and uncross your legs and hands, and just get in touch with your body and feel your feet firmly planted on the ground. Imagine that you have roots sprouting out of your feet into the ground to give you the sensation of having your feet well grounded. Or you can imagine you are at the seashore where the sand is slightly wet and you have your feet lightly sinking to the sand, giving you a sense of being fully grounded. Bring your attention to the chair or surface where you're sitting and observe how your body contacts the chair. Notice how the chair supports your body, and all the surfaces of your body are points of your body that make contact with the chair. Maybe you can feel your bottom, your thighs, your back, and feel yourself being comfortably supported by the chair or couch or whatever surface you're sitting on. Like if you're sitting in a very comfortable armchair within your body. And without losing the sense of your feet being firmly planted on the ground and of the contact your body makes with the surface that sustains your body, bring now your attention to your breath and observe the air that flows into your nostrils. Try to feel its temperature, maybe a little bit colder when it comes in, and maybe a little bit warmer when it goes out. And observe your breath. How is your breath? Is it deep, shallow, short, calm? And try to extend your exhale, which will give you a greater sense of relaxation. you can help yourself with a sigh or with any type of sound, like ah. This will help you extend your exhale. Or a hum. And you could imagine that there is a beautiful flower within yourself, within your body. And as you inhale, imagine you're inhaling the delicious scent of that flower, so that the air is penetrating ever so deeply into your nostrils and down into your belly. So we are so used to contract our belly, and here we'll let the air inflate it as it penetrates from the nostrils down to the belly without forcing anything. And try to see this image of a beautifully scented flower within your body helps you to inhale more deeply. Try to check your shoulders. And if your shoulders are up, just let them fall down and let them relax. So as you breathe in, imagine you're breathing in this delicious scent of this flower. And as you breathe out, try to extend your exhale, maybe with a sigh or a hum. And as you breathe in, you could imagine you're breathing in all the brachas, all the brachot that Hashem sends in your life. And as you breathe out, you can imagine you're breathing out all the darkness and all the worries. Now, while still connecting with your body, visualize your torso as if it were a huge balloon, and just keep breathing naturally, observing how this balloon inflates as you breathe in and deflates as you breathe out. And as you do so, let your back take part in this movement so that you feel the whole upper part of your torso expanding and contracting as you breathe. You can also feel how the pressure that your body makes against the back of the seat increases as you inhale and decreases as you exhale. So try to bring your attention to the back of your body. Most of us are only aware of the front part of our body as we breathe, and we do not realize how three-dimensional we are and how much our back actually takes part in this process. So we are visualizing our torso as a globe that expands and contracts as you breathe. You can imagine this balloon in different colors. And as you do so, try to see if you feel any difference when you paint it in pink or in blue or in yellow or in any color you desire. And still focusing on your breath, bring now your attention onto your hands, wherever they are, and notice whether they are relaxed or tense, resting on your thighs, your abdomen, or your chest. And try to bring them to whatever place you feel they might connect with and support your breath. And simply feel the sensation of your hands in contact with your body and notice your sensations. And from this calmer place within yourself, let the energy come back to your body by you wriggling your toes, moving your fingers, stretching your hands, your arms, stretching your neck, looking down, and slowly opening your eyes. And you could let yourself listen to this webinar from this more relaxed place within yourself. If anybody wants to share, I know that the questions are supposed to be at the end, but if anyone wants to share their experience, I would be happy to hear that. Otherwise, we'll just continue.
You can unmute yourself if you'd like to share.
Right.
I'd like to share, this is Chana Simpson, but this is very similar to my yoga class. This is that the breathing techniques are used in yoga very, very prominently.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you. Thank you for sharing. So I guess we'll continue. The idea of connecting our breath, our body, is because this is our first tool to lower our stress in our daily life. If we're in contact with your body and with our breath, which we constantly carry with us around the day, we can use it to just bring the stress level, whatever it may be, to a lower level. Just by grounding your feet and being aware of the contact points of your body with wherever you're sitting, if you're standing, so just your feet, and if you're laying down with your bed, and noticing your breath. And if you can just have a deep breath just one time, this will send a message to your nervous system that you're not in danger and that everything is really okay. Because if a person would be pursued by a tiger, let's say, they wouldn't be able to do that. They would be so involved in surviving and in the real danger that they're going through, that their breath would be very rapid and shallow, and they wouldn't have the capacity of taking a big, deep, nice breath. So this sends a real message to your nervous system that we can calm down, that we can just relax because there is nothing real, there is no real threat going on at the moment. Okay, so what is stress? So stress is, I think that now in the situation that we're all living in different stages of it, I don't know, where you Leizoerk from, but in Mexico, we're still pretty much in the distancing and staying at home phase of the process. So stress is really being lived in all kinds of thoughts, situations we are going through, and questions we have of uncertainty and how long this whole thing will last, and which further limitations will be imposed upon us, and what will be life after this whole pandemic, and dealing with the increased demands of everybody being home or all the time, or on the contrary, of being alone all the time, tending to sick family members, grieving from losses, lack of personal time, or overabundance of personal time. So, I mean, there are lots of stressing factors that we may be going through added to any normal stress that is part of daily life. And for those who have already started the process of going back to normal life, so there is also the stress of making the decision whether to return to a normal life. What does a normal life look like? How much contact do they really want to have with other people after so much, after being secluded for such a long time? So stress is just part of life, and let's say we need a minimal amount of stress just for protective reasons and just to stay alive. But anything more than the normal amount of stress is really not recommendable. So another tool besides breathing, grounding, is to really name it. To name it is to tame it. When we are having emotions, when we are having physical sensations, if we can just say, I'm feeling stressed, I'm feeling worried, I'm feeling X. This helps to create a part of us who is able to observe our stress, to separate an observer within us. And this is very conducive to more relaxation. Also using the language of parts is very useful because we are really made out of parts. We have constantly parts like, and mainly in stressful situations, we have a part that says, oh, okay, I can't stand this being secluded anymore. I really want to see my children. Or another part that says, crazy, you want to see your children, you want to expose yourself. Or another part saying, look at all those neighbors who are doing exactly that. And, we have those voices constantly within us. So just to naming the voices conduces to calming ourselves down. And also using the language of parts, meaning it's very different, and you can maybe see the difference. If I say, I feel anxious, it's like if my whole body and soul is involved in being anxious. And another way of saying it is there is a part of me that feels anxious. And I really recommend to use more that language than the first one, because we always have a part that is anxious, but we always have at the same time a part that is not so anxious, and a part that is able to observe that anxiety from afar. So that's a tool that you can also use that introduces this observer part of myself, which is capable to observe my inner feelings and to soothe them eventually. At least to observe is the first step. So this allows us to bring down our emotions to where they really belong. So we saw until now two tools. One is the physical tool of breathing and being connected to our body, the grounding. Now the naming and the using of language of parts. And now I would like to bring here the tool of the 3 boxes, which is a tool I learned from Dr. Miriam Adahan, who is a psychologist based in Jerusalem. And she says that in life there are 3 boxes. So we have our own box, which we often feel is enormous and englobes the whole world and our whole family and our circumstances, but which really is a very small little box that our thoughts, our words, and our actions. And on this little box, which is my box, I have 100% control. I can control, very interestingly, I can control my thoughts. I can control my actions, my words, and my actions. And really, I think only with that, we have lifetime work. We're here for that. We'll be able to have control on that, on what we can control, not on what we cannot control. So this is for our box. Then we have the box of others. Box of others include anybody else in our lives, like our husband, our children, our parents, our siblings, in-laws, our maids, if you have any person who is part of our life is part of this box. And I would be very interested if you could put in a chat box, how much control do you think we have on this box? Do you know how to use the chat box? You just click on the chat, and then on the lower part of the chat, you have something that says to everyone, and you can just type a message there. 1 to 100, how much control do we have on other people's box? So I don't see any message, but I can tell you that we have no control, absolutely zero. We have no control on anyone else's box. They are in charge of their box, not us. And anytime we are feeling stressed, we can ask ourselves, are we in this moment in our box? Or am I in my husband's box wanting him to act in a way that he's not willing to? Am I in my child's box wanting him to be something he's not? Am I in my mother-in-law's box trying to want her to be a person she's not, etc.? So to be in a box that doesn't belong to you is a cause of stress. And finally, the God's box, which is all the circumstances of our lives. The family I was born in, the country I was born, the functionality of the family I was born in, whether my parents got along well or not. My talents, my weaknesses, whether I was born nice looking or not so nice looking, whether I was born intelligent or not so intelligent, whether I was born in a family with money or without money, all those circumstances are put into our lives by Hashem. And again, how much do you think we have control on those circumstances? Okay, so again, zero control. Those circumstances are decided by Hashem for our benefit, even when those circumstances may be hard for us, because we are here on, I don't know how you pronounce this in English, Pilates or Pilates, I don't know how you say it, class. We are on a stretching class all the days of our lives. We're not here, we're here to grow. We're not here to rest. We'll have a rest in the next world. But here we're really on a constant stretching program made exactly for each one. It's a personal program with the circumstances and the people in our lives being our personal trainers. And this program is exactly designed for each one of us. And Hashem knows exactly what we can take and exactly what we cannot take. But this is only true if we stay in the present, because we can take only what Hashem sends us now. We cannot take what Hashem will send us because we don't even know what will be. So when we get into the future and we start panicking, what will be, what's going to happen? So again, we're getting into Hashem's box, and this leads to anxiety. If we are in our box and living it in the moment. So this is a marvelous recipe for a life without stress. Just 1 second. Okay. So if we realize that the only little box I have control on is my little box of words, of thoughts, words, and actions, and we stay there, that's going to be a marvelous tool for a stressless life. And we have in Pirkei Avos, it says, Pirkei Avos Hey Chaftes. So it says like this, Shal karchacha ata noitzar, because you're created against your will. Bal karchacha ata nolad, and you were born against your will. Bal karchacha ata chai, and you live against your will. Bal karchacha ata met, and you die against your will. Bal karchacha ata atit, you can give into the cheshbon, and against your will, we'll have to give an account. Lifnei melech malchei hamlachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu. You have to give an account before the King of Kings, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So we don't have any control of anything. The only control we have is on how we react with our thoughts, our words, and our actions to the people and circumstances that Hashem sends into our lives. So having awareness of that and accepting that this is our situation in life, that's how Hashem has designed his life, and empowering us to deal with what we have to deal, which is our thoughts, words, and actions, can be a very empowering way of living. So research says that stress is 93% caused, stress and suffering comes from our thoughts and our emotions. So they are innerly caused. They're caused by ourselves. Whereas only 7% of stress comes from outer circumstances in life. So there is a model that I learned from Sarah Hannah Radcliffe that maybe some of you may be familiar with, which is the Amazon.com model. Anybody knows it? If you can lift your hand if you do. Okay, so that model is like that. I don't know if you're familiar with Amazon. Amazon is a site in the web where many of us are very busy doing our shopping. And mostly now when we cannot get out of the house. So what happens? Let's say that my interest in life is books on Jewish history. So I'm constantly buying, or I often buy, or even I just one time bought a book on Jewish history. What happens the next day? You get an email from Amazon saying, "Hi, Chana, Yael, I saw that you bought this book. I would like to suggest to you those other books." And guess what? On what subject are they? On Jewish history. And if you continue to buy books on Jewish history, Amazon will have, a whole gallery of books on Jewish history that you'll be able to refer to and consult and buy, because that's their marketing system. Now, what happens if, okay, I read a lot about Jewish history, and now what really interests me is to make healthier meals. So I find books on healthy cooking and health food. I think somebody needs to move. Early needs to move. Good, please. So what happens? I start buying books on healthy cooking, health food, and Amazon gets confused. So they start confused, or they start changing their marketing. And I start getting on my. I don't know if somebody could. Joyce, maybe you could mute everybody but me, so that we have back noise, please. So I start getting on my email. I start getting on my email messages, mixed messages.
Didn't realize.
Okay. I'm being muted. There are still people who are not muted in the chat. I don't know how you can mute everybody without muting myself. But okay, so I'll continue. I don't know what you heard until now, but okay, so I'll go back to your getting mixed message from Amazon that, books on Jewish history, books on healthy cooking, until you start completely, you're not interested in Jewish history. You have all the books that you could have possibly wanted to buy. And then Amazon will only recommend to you books on healthy cooking. So this is exactly what neuroscience says about rewiring our brains. And this is what happens with thoughts. So let's say, if you let yourself constantly having thoughts of worry or fear or anger, what are you doing? You're really clicking on those products in your mind. You're clicking on worry. Okay, you're clicking on fear. You're clicking on negative emotions. So when your mind cannot be blank, it's constantly working. We have 60,000 thoughts a day. So when we have a blank mind, what happens? The Amazonmind.com gets in charge and starts sending you a message and says, you know, Yael, I see you haven't worried for a long time. Like, you know, but I send you some worrying messages. And we say, yeah, of course, that's what I like to do. So our mind sends you more themes about what to worry or about what to be fearful or about any negative things we have a habit to have. So if we start the first step in this process is awareness of what type of messages do we like to delve in. You know, are we a worrier? Are we an anxious person, a fearful person? Awareness of that is the first step. It's like being aware that you're clicking on the books of Jewish history. You're making your brain click on being worried or fearful or angry. So once you're aware of that, so you would try to take control of your mind. And when you have a thought of anxiety and you are aware of that thought, you can substitute that thought by a positive thought. And the easiest thinking process that is available to us is a thought of gratitude. No matter how difficult our life is in the moment, we can be grateful for the blue of the sky, if it's blue, or we can be grateful for the breeze or for the beautiful nature that surrounds us, or for anything, or for having a roof over our heads. There is always something that we can be grateful for. So if we train ourselves to be aware of our thoughts and to replace them for thoughts of gratitude or any other positive thought. I'm talking about gratitude because that's the easiest path. What we're really doing is we are rewiring our brain. And if we practice this long enough, so we'll have a period where we'll be anxious sometimes, but also we'll be able to be grateful sometimes. And if we're grateful enough times, meaning that we click more on gratitude than on anxiety, our thoughts, we are rewiring our brain to be a more grateful brain, which will make us a more grateful person. So this is something, even though we feel like, how can you say that we have control on our thoughts? But we do, because it depends on what we click on. So let's try to click on gratitude instead of clicking on worry and fear and stress. Okay, so there are external sources of stress and also, external sources which are given when we have happy circumstances. Every simcha in Jewish life is accompanied with a lot of stress. You know, preparing a marriage, preparing bar mitzvah, having a grandchild or a child. All those are happy circumstances that are also accompanied with a lot of stress. We have the stages in life, like, you know, dating, getting engaged, getting married, getting pregnant, marrying our children, living in an empty nest. All those stages they're normal, and they come also with those doses of stress. Having to meet deadline, working, or being retired and not knowing what to do with your life as we are retired. So there are plenty of circumstances that Hashem will send in our lives that are external to us and that will cause stress. So we have already a few tools to deal with that. And we have also internal sources of stress that I have already mentioned that are 93% of what causes stress in our life. And I don't know if you'd like to put in the chat box what could be those internal sources of stress. Do you know how to use the chat box? You just go to chat, which is a little square in the bottom of the screen. You click on it, and then this will lead this will lead you to the chat box. So you click on the chat box and you can start writing. And I would be interested in knowing, what do you think are the internal sources of stress that we could maybe be aware of and try to minimize? Let's see, ladies, what could be those ideas that you can contribute to this talk?
Your participation would be appreciated.
You can start, maybe, Joyce.
I don't know how to send it, Joyce. I wrote something, but I don't know how to send it.
Oh, you press enter. Press enter and it will be sent.
I cannot use the chat because I'm using my cell phone and not the computer. I would like to ask a question about, you know, you ask about a situation of stress for when you have a transition, like you said. For example, you had the job or something you're used to do many, many years, and you're starting something new. And you don't know really exactly what's the direction you have to take and how to decide which road to, you know, what do you do?
Okay, so we saw a few tools until now. One is to contact your body and to instead of letting yourself be completely invaded by those thoughts and ruminating them, to just ground yourself, take a deep breath, and tell yourself, I'm having an anxious thought. Even though it does relate to a situation that you want to resolve, to solve, you will be able to solve it better if you're not anxious about it. The anxiety is not necessary for the solution of your thought. So that's one point. Grounding yourself, breathing, naming your thought, using the language of parts, and then one strategy could be to allow yourself half an hour a day to deal with this problem, but only half an hour, not the whole day. The ruminating your situation and just repeating to yourself constantly, which is one of the internal sources of stress. Like, let's say you are in the situation and you're constantly living in the future, you're not living in the present. And you're constantly in this labyrinth of thoughts without being able to find a solution is not a help in the past to find a solution. So if you could circumscribe the time that you devote to finding a solution to half an hour a day, and only half an hour a day, and the rest of the time when this thing pops into your head, this theme pops into your head, so just use the other tools. So that will I think, help reduce your stress and really help you find a solution. I don't know if this helps you.
Thank you.
Mm.
Florence, if you can't type it, unmute yourself and ask the question and then mute yourself again, please.
Anybody else?
Florence, can you unmute yourself and ask your question if you can't type it in the chat?
Okay,
No,
there's
I didn't have a question, but I was thinking that one of the things that stress that's coming from internal is all sorts of stresses that, you know, you're scared of illness, you're scared of loneliness, you're scared of getting old. Those are all internal stresses, aren't they?
Yeah, they are from internal thoughts that you bring into your system. And obviously any negative thought, any inner negative dialogue will create a physical chemistry in the body that won't help you in the process. So although things are very normal, and I think again, by naming your thoughts, by grounding yourself, by focusing on the things you have and not on the things you do not have. There is plenty of tremendous gain, how could I say, benefits in aging. We are more mature, we have so much life experience. We can contribute so much to society, even though physically we may feel weaker, or maybe we live in a society that doesn't value age, but Judaism certainly values it. Our Chachamim are usually in their late 90s, sometimes in their hundreds, and people go to them as if they have, you know, all the solutions, and they do. So we should try to, maybe what I would advise is to maybe jot down on a sheet of paper all the advantages of aging, and not see it like, you know, from a victim point of view. This is, you know, it's part of what Hashem is sending me to navigate at this point in my life. And what's the best way for me to navigate it? I have so much to contribute, even if it's only for my family. If I can do it in a non-impositive way, I mean, you know, if people are not asking for our advice, to give advice is often not well received. But I don't remember in which chat or class or whatever, somebody mentioned, for instance, let's say the gift of loneliness, no? Feeling lonely, which is very typical of this time that we're living now. So a lady called the Rav of her shul and told him that she was feeling very lonely, and that she loves to talk on the phone, and that if he would give her a list of names of people that she does, that she would be happy to make daily phone calls to those people and establish a relationship and get to know new people. And this is what she did. And she empowered herself, and she brought so much light into so many people's lives. You know, you have to know how to do it, not being intruding, not being judging, etc. But we can take advantage of our loneliness and just find a new way of expression for it, if we don't put ourselves in a victim mode, which is very easy to put ourselves in. I mean, this is a class about empowering ourselves to get into our normal habits. And it takes time, you know, and we'll have this transition time, where our brain will be sometimes in victim mode and sometimes in empowerment, and that's fine. It's okay. Until, if we click enough in the empowering mode, we'll get to the empowering place. So somebody is asking me.
Thank you very much. That's such a good perspective. It's a different angle. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for the question. And somebody's asking also, how about a person nervous about having to choose to work with virus risk and not work but miss income? Yeah, so it's a very real very pertinent question, very real situation for those who are already having to face this type of problem or circumstance. And, you know, there are many things a person can do. A person can try to get to a solution through relaxation and asking our inner self. This is a whole class. I can't go into that. It's really a, let's say, a therapeutic session that the person could have with a how do you say, a therapist that has experience in this type of practice. But one can make decisions from our logical mind, and one can also make decisions by contacting our inner self, and also by giving numbers to how much do I feel nervous about choosing to work with virus risk. And sometimes it will have a surprise. I feel nervous, it will be a 3, or maybe it will be a 10. And how much do I want to decide not to work and miss income? How much do I feel nervous about this alternative? And also give it a number. This puts our fear or our stress in perspective. So we can deal with it from an inner part. We can, inner work, we can deal with it with trying to put in a paper the advantages and disadvantages. We can reach out for help from doctors who can really assess the how much our being nervous has to do with reality, how much is really the possibility of my being contagious, and what are the precautions I have to take if I decide to go back to work, to really try to get an informed opinion about that, not being just in our heads worrying about it. And also make an informed assessment of how much, maybe if Jackie could mute herself, making an informed assessment about what you're not working, how it would impact your income. So we can just bring into the equation our logical brain and our right brain, our right hemisphere, or our left hemisphere, and reach out for informed people who are really informed and who can give us an informed answer to those questions. Okay.
Can we open it up to questions, Yael? If anybody has any questions, unmute yourself, please.
Let me just see if there is anything, since we have had questions. There is, let me see if I have something important I would like still to.
Sorry.
I just want to make, let's say, a review of the tools and maybe just name a few other tools. So one of the great tools is to put Hashem in the picture. To put Hashem and Emunah, and if we have to work on an Emunah, work on it. That remind ourselves that we have no control on Hashem's box, but that Hashem does have control on his box. And if we can relax into the trust that Hashem knows what's best for us and is leading us to our destination, if we let ourselves be led, and if we don't resist, that's a very big stress reduction tool. Remind us that we have all the tools that we need to reach our destination, even though we don't know how to reach it. We say every morning, Shasali Kol Tzarki. Hashem gave us all the tools. And Hashem is with us along the way all the time, even when we don't feel he's with us. But reminding ourselves that Hashem loves each and every one of us with an unconditional love in whatever step of the way we are. Asking ourselves, in which box am I right now? And if we are not in our box, get promptly back to our box. Letting go of our need to control, because we have control only on the elements of our box and nothing else. letting go of many things, of our expectations of ourselves, and mainly of our expectations of others, because expectations we may have on others is a huge source of stress. Noticing our emotions and naming them. To name it is to tame it. Making a gratitude journal and noticing our victories, even the smallest one. Like, for instance, I woke up in the morning, and even though I'm living alone and nobody's really looking at me, I dressed myself, I put on makeup. This is what you do. Before that, I took a shower. I exercised. All those are huge victories in a time like that. So notice them, write them down, have a victory journal. Being on this webinar is a huge victory. You don't have to save someone to have a victory journal. Practicing relaxation and self-compassion, being kind to ourselves and others. Doing chesed is a huge source of comfort. So try to find a way to do chesed within our limitations. And being in the present. Because Shasali Kol Tzarki applies to my situation right now, and Hashem gives me everything that I have to deal with it. Hashem doesn't give me the strength or tools to deal with what the future will bring. He knows what the future will bring. I don't know, and this is not what I have to be concerned about. Okay, so if anyone, now open the floor for any questions you may have. And thank you for this opportunity to give this talk and to be with all of you.
You can unmute yourself by clicking on the mic if you have any questions. That was a wonderful summary.
Thank you.
I was wondering if there is a character in the Torah that really teaches to deal with stress, like one of our avot. Or anything described that you think would
Who
be.
asked this question? I'm sorry, because I don't see you.
Leah, we got plenty.
Haralea?
Yeah, we got plenty. Leah, Imeno, she had a lot of stress.
Right. I think that one point that the Torah stresses, maybe emphasizes without really talking explicitly about it, is that I don't see any of the avos or imahos sitting down and worrying about what will be with them. Yeah, they live the present, they take decisions that belong to their present, and they completely rely on Hashem. So I think this is a tool that the Torah shows us in an implicit way, even though it doesn't say. And then, Yaakov Avinu didn't sit down and stress himself, but he planned on how to confront Esau. And he took steps to do that.
And Lavan.
I think that's one of the tools that the Torah certainly gives us. And I'm sure there are many, many others, but I don't have them in mind right now.
Moshe Rabbeinu.
Moshe Rabbeinu, right? I mean, and the Torah is very explicit also in saying that a person, even Moshe Rabbeinu, came to a point that he says, I can't go further with that. Take me from your book. Take the life from me. I mean, he reached a point of utter despair, even Moshe Rabbeinu. So we can have compassion for ourselves when we reach those places and say, okay, I'm desperate, naming it. And just feeling how Hashem loves us and is with us, which is what happened to Moshe Rabbeinu. And just take from this source strength to go further. And if we do reach a place of utter despair and we need, help in our hotlines.
David HaMelech with his Tehillim.
I'm sorry?
David HaMelech in Tehillim. He expresses a lot of those challenges.
Right? And one of the ways to do it is to express them. He wrote it down. He wrote it down. So journaling is also a source that comes from the Torah. Like to note down our stress, to write it down, it takes it out of our head. And it puts us in an observer situation, which is always healthier than when we just have everything, I'm nervous. There is a part of us, of me, and there is part of me that is observing that, and it's taking the decision to write it down. If I can't sleep at night, it's much better if I suffer from insomnia, for instance. A very good thing is to have a notebook around us, and next to our bed, and a pen, and jot down what are the thoughts I'm having at this moment. Maybe I'm so worried about my situation, financial or health, or maybe I'm worried about the dishes that I didn't do in the kitchen yesterday night, and I'll come to a horrible kitchen this morning, and just noting it down will lower our stress. And then do breathing and grounding exercises will be much better for us than to just stay in the labyrinth of our stressful thoughts.
How about singing a song about it?
I'm sorry?
How about making up and singing a song about it?
Wonderful. Right. Anything, it's a very good idea. Anything that gives pleasure to your system. Making a cake, reading a book, looking out of the window and seeing the beautiful nature that Hashem created, going for a walk, exercising, anything that promotes positive chemistry in our body is a great idea.
Wonderful.
Yes.
Any more questions? Wonderful. Hannah,
Actually, I have a question.
Okay, go ahead.
How do you explain the last one? Okay, but how do you explain that what happened many times is that we take a path that doesn't take us to something good? That actually, like you said, when you are dealing with boxes that are not our boxes, or children's boxes, or husband's boxes, but you still want to have and take a path for a connection. And how do you explain that a person goes back and back to the same path that he knows from the beginning that it won't lead to something positive?
Because this is a matter of a habit. People can get compulsive about buying Jewish history books, even though they bought all the books. It happened to me once, but I wanted to buy a new book, not on Jewish history nor on healthy cookies, another other type of book on psychology. And Amazon was kind enough to tell me that I bought this book already. So you create habits by constant clicking and doing the same actions and having the same thoughts. So it's like engraving in your brain, like if you would take a stone and really engraving, with a very cutting instrument constantly in the same place. So this is what we do with our brain when we create habits. And this is why we don't learn from habits. So unless we have the awareness that, people say so often, I told him 1,000 times and he doesn't listen to me. Okay, so if you told him the same thing 1,000 times, it's time to tell him something else, or just to be quiet, to use another way of relating. But we have, the first step is awareness. If we don't have awareness, okay, this doesn't lead me to my destination. So what could lead to my destination? I want to have connection to my husband. My husband feels or to my children. My husband feels my way of connecting to be intrusive. She doesn't like the way I connect. Maybe we can be transparent about that and tell him or our children, I would like so much to connect with you. What would be for you a way of connection that would be pleasurable for you? And be able to be able to hear and accept the answer. Maybe the answer will be you need to connect to your child by calling him 3 times a day or 10, and each time talking to him for half an hour. He'll probably, he will block you out of his cell phone. And maybe he'll tell you, no, Ma, I would love to talk to you. Could you please call me daily or 3 times a week for 5 minutes? Are you able to hear that answer and to accept it? You have to put the other person's reality into your box, because, it also counts. And this is what creates real connection, to, shrink yourself a little bit. That's what Hashem did when he created the world. He did a tzimtzum, a contraction, in order to make space for us. So we have to contract ourselves to make space for others. It's a very difficult work, and it's a work of our whole lives.
Amazing. Thank you.
Anybody else with any questions? Will we wrap this up?
Okay, so I want to thank you, Joyce, for...
I want to thank you.
Oh, we have here such an amazing role model. Joyce told me how she created this group. So it came out of this need to connect, of this need to help. And, I'm leaving this terrible situation where I feel, I myself may feel alone, and so many people feel alone. How can I contribute to them? And look what an amazing thing she created. She created a group. She's reaching out to speakers, and she's bringing light into so many people's path. We can all do that in our own little way.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you for being our guest this week.
Thank you. It was wonderful.
Before we end this meeting, I just would like to say, next week we're going to be back to our 2 o'clock time. I do have a guest speaker cannot make, please mute yourselves. When I do have a guest speaker that cannot make our normal 2 o'clock Israel time, then I will need to change it. But next week we're back to 2 o'clock, and our guest speaker will be Rabbi Bazieli, a naturopath, a Bach remedy practitioner for more than 20 years, who's written more than 10 books, and the rest will be for you to see next week. So I look forward to seeing you next week. And Chana, Yael, big thank you, and thank you to all of you. Litz Hashem will see you all next week. Thank you.
Thank you as well. Thank you so much.
Bye.
Excellent speaker. Thank you.
Bye.
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 He's a naturopath, and he's